Alright, I'm Zack Middleby, and I want to talk about Karl Marx and class struggle. I just want to do a little introduction to Marx. He lived from 1818 to 1883. He was born into a wealthy middle-class family. He was born in Germany, and he said to be the most controversial person ever in political philosophy. He was an intellectual, activist, journalist, revolutionary, organizer, and essayist. And he wrote and contributed to some 50-some volumes of scholarly and political writings, and his most known writing was the Communist Manifesto. The next page is historical materialism. Marx used G.W.S. Hegel's form of materialism, but the ending was changed, like how he changed the ending. He just turned it into a classicist society. Historical materialism was composed of a thesis and antithesis, where they met together and formed a synthesis which united the two and made true. This process is repeated through history until a final synthesis is reached. So the end result would be class society for Marx. When you use the final synthesis, class society and economic justice for all. So though it's a class society where everyone fits under like one class, he says, there has to be someone still in charge, do you think? Because he talked about it, but he said it would be like an organization where people would be rotated through to control. So do you think people would take advantage of that process, or do you think they'd try to take power and become selfish and greedy?
Yeah, knowing the way humans are,
yeah.
If they get a little bit of power, and someone's gonna have more, and then they're gonna want more than that person. It's just gonna keep spiraling upwards.
Yeah, because he talks about people being rotated through a process that they would control stuff, but they weren't really a power. But I mean, at one point, someone's gonna want more power and want to take control of everything. So that's why I was confused when he was talking about that. But all right, next page is the prehistory of class society. Marx he takes a look back to the tribes before society was really even formed, civilization, and he saw there's no division between the rulers and the ruled. Everyone participated within the society. Everyone was equal. There's no private property. No one had anything more than the other, and everyone shared it from a common stock. But the only difference was that he pointed out was the age and the genders. So only one class existed, and everyone was part of it. And since private property, slavery, government, and class division were not present in the beginning, that means they're not in human nature. So through time, people became greedy, and we just tried to make industry, and people took control of others and have more power over them. So do you believe that's why people become selfish? Is all of a sudden they change the way the process works, and they just take more power off of people? I mean, is that where it comes from, or is it just through how we just progress? We just have to do that to get better?
I think it's like what Rousseau said about how property separates men, and how it's like it's a measurement that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's something we brought upon ourselves.
Yeah, and that just formed everything else. Yeah, civilization, people become more powerful. So, next page, class struggle. The class were originally formed by the division of labor. The bourgeoisies were upper class, wealthy, and they controlled pretty much the proletaries. They controlled the business, industries. The proletariats were the workers. They were ruled by the bourgeoisies, and they were much poorer. He believes every class that is exploited is driven to overthrow its rulers and to install themselves eventually as the new power or the new rulers, where the rulers in the past were taken over and now they are the bourgeoisies pretty much. He says economic power shifts to the class that develops new forces of production, such as the Industrial Revolution. And when workers triumph over the rulers, everyone will be free and class struggle will be gone. So now, looking at that sentence right there, do you think that is what we're looking at, through the past revolutions? Because our revolution, that we became free, but people were still better than others. There's no economic equality.
Well, if you look at the French Revolution, they just took over, and then they end up getting Napoleon and all that. So, I mean, and he says that history repeats itself. So, I don't know if that's a true statement or not.
That's why I brought that up. So, on the last page, class struggle. Through time of revolutions, classes become more equal, he says. for instance, is the Lord to bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie is now less powerful than the Lord. I mean, other way around. Actually, that's how it is. Serf to proletaire is now freer than the serf. And I got here. I just used that same thing from last week. How through time, and when we started as master and slave, then there's a revolution. Then there's a lord and serf, where the serf is more freer than the slave, and the lord is not as powerful as a master. And there's another revolution. The bourgeoisie are the proletariats. And then keep going through time, and his end results of class society. So, based from what he left off there, like, what would you classify us now? Still as bourgeoisies and proletariats, or what would you think he would consider us? Or because
probably.
like, there really is like the middle class is starting to fade in our country now. It's starting to be separated up the upper and lower. So, what do you?
I think we're actually headed in a different direction because, like, in the news, it was talking about how the Dow is breaking records like every other day, and people, but 1/6 of our population is considered below the poverty line. So I think it's the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I think we're actually might be going backwards in that spiral.
Sick. That's what I was wondering too. I think we'd still be considered bourgeoisie and proletariats because eventually I think we're going to go through revolution somewhere down the line, like we were talking about last week. But we'll see what happens. But that's what I think.
Yeah, and doesn't Obama advocate like a strong middle class? Like he will.
Yeah.
So I mean, if we keep going in that direction, then
That's what I'm saying. We'll be divided into two classes pretty much. So, all right, but then when I said proletaires will overthrow the bourgeoisies in the end, forming a class of society, he says, therefore, the state has no purpose. Everyone will work for themselves as part of the whole community with their talent, which they have their talents that will contribute to a certain purpose that will help out the whole community. And economic equality will be reached to all means, and everyone is naturally cooperative. So everything is pretty much peaceful, everyone's equal, no one's worried about someone controlling each other. So, is there any questions?